Yeah, I can confidently say that this is one of the best shows on TV right now. The Boys Season 3 once again stars Karl Urban, Anthony Starr, Jack Quaid, and Erin Moriarty. It's been a year of calm, Homelander subdued. Butcher works for the government, supervised by Huey of all people, but both men itch to turn this peace and quiet into blood and bone. So when the boys learn of a mysterious anti-super weapon, it sends them crashing into the Seven, starting a war and chasing the legend of the first superhero, Soldier Boy. Now, I'll admit it, I was a little late to the party on The Boys. After hearing such good things about this show, I finally decided that I was going to just watch the show, see what I thought of it, so I binged the first 2 seasons before Season 3 came out, and I immediately fell in love. I think the show is nothing short of brilliant, and this season continues to prove why it is, like I said, one of the best shows on TV right now. It is a must-watch show, and while I don't think this season is as good as Season 1, Season 1 I still think is the best season, it's another terrific season. And I feel like Where the Boys works so well, and it works well on multiple levels, but the real big thing is it's dark and funny. It's totally original. It's arguably the best superhero show on TV right now. It's better than anything you'll find on Disney Plus or any other streaming service because it's willing to go to depths and lengths that most shows won't go. Whether we're talking about the violence or the sex, it is violent. It is firing on all cylinders within every episode. But it's also impeccably funny. You will be laughing out loud, whether that's because of shock factor or just genuine jokes. It's just a great satire on the world and America and our political beliefs and our just beliefs in society and how we interact with each other and social media. It tackles such serious issues like the Black Lives Matter movement and abuse. Those are just a few of the things that this season tackles in particular. But it is not willing to get dark and serious and carry that emotional weight, but also giving you the funny moments. This season questions characters' belief. If you think you know a character, you probably don't by the end of this season. You'll be surprised at the lengths that they went to with each character, taking them in different routes and bringing that unpredictable factor to it. Especially with characters like Huey, he does a couple things in the season that I would have never seen a character like Huey going to, and that just shows you how good the writing is. It'll keep you on the edge of your seat. And let's talk about the characters. Homelander, Anthony Starr, is absolutely phenomenal. Every sense of the word. Homelander, Anthony Starr is one of the best characters on TV that I've maybe ever seen. He is compelling, which is something that is so important for any character in any medium. You want to have a character that is compelling. You want to have a character that you can feel similar to, you can feel differently, you can see yourself in them, but in Homelander's case, you don't want to see yourself in them. Like, that's the thing with this character. The writing is just so good. You feel for Homelander this season. How Soldier Boy plays into the mix and how that meshes with Homelander and his stability. I mean, Homelander, he's in a deep depression at the start of the season, and it just gets worse as the season goes on. He is utterly unhinged, and what they do this season is they have some crazy stuff, especially in the finale. I literally was screaming because of how shocked I was. He's a character that will make you so frustrated and you'll hate so much, but you can also feel for him on the other end of the stick. It's compelling. Billy Butcher too just gets expanded upon, and they go to different lengths with this character. I've always been a fan of Starlight. I think Annie, the character, is just wonderful. She's an absolute badass. And they touch on some really interesting things with women empowerment and a man's need to feel like he needs to provide and it feels like he needs to protect his partner, in this case his girlfriend. And that was something that was really interesting. It was interesting to see that they would play into that. Huey and Starlight, for the majority of the season, they're kind of butting heads, which I will say I wasn't always the biggest fan of. I wasn't necessarily the biggest fan of them pulling apart the couple that I just love seeing together. But it added more to the season. It added more to the writing. It added more to the characters. I can see why they did it. And the fact that Huey feels that need to feel like he has power over Starlight. You know, he's a human and Starlight is a superhero. She's a soup. And there's an interesting dynamic between those two characters that I thought was interesting how they played upon it. Everything with Kimiko and Frenchie there was a lot of heartfelt stuff to that. There was also some conflicting stuff with that. The choices that some of the characters make at times can be a little baffling. I wasn't fully on board with Frenchie's storyline throughout this season. I did feel like when they would go to that storyline and develop it more, I kind of felt like it was taking away from the episode. And luckily it doesn't play too much of a big part of this season, so I wasn't too upset with the fact that of how big it was. Like, it wasn't that big in this season, but I wish there was a little bit more to it, something that would make me feel more attached to it. The last character I want to talk about that I have thoughts on is Laz Alonso's MM. Now, this is where it gets interesting because I never really thought that this character had as much depth to it, and I guess that just goes to show you how well fleshed out each and every one of these characters are. The writing is top tier. They flesh out his character in such a beautiful way. It'll bring out the tears at times. I did not think I was going to be as attached as I was to this character. I found myself being incredibly invested. There's one scene in particular in Herogasm, which we'll talk about in a second, that where he's just kind of breaking down with Starlight. It was incredible stuff. I was just sitting there in shock as to how invested I was. I really didn't think that his character would be as interesting or compelling as they made him out to be. I underestimated him. There's a lot of emotional moments in the season too. A lot of the stuff with A-Train and what he deals with, he kind of gets sidelined in this season. But the stuff with his brother and how the season plays out, it's emotional, and I did find myself feeling for him. So it is definitely a show that is going to give you laughs, it's going to give you emotional moments, you're going to be sad, you're going to be hyped up, especially in that finale. I found myself cheering. It fires on all cylinders. Let's get into my issues. I mentioned how this isn't the best season yet. I still think the first season is the best, but the first season, in my opinion, is one of the best seasons of TV that I've ever seen, so there's some pretty high standards. I think it's just neck and neck with season 2. Like I mentioned, Frenchie's storyline, I wasn't all too compelled by. I wasn't really digging the show at the start. The first 2 episodes didn't really suck me in, and even going further than that, I wasn't really sucked in until later in the season, but I was never hesitant about continuing watching. Like, I was still wanting to continue on with the show and where everything was going to play out, looking forward to the next episode every week. I definitely think a lot of the episodes were hit or miss. In episode 7, right between Herogasm and the finale, I think that was a big low point for me in the season. After going off the high Herogasm, which I'll just talk about really quickly. If you want to see my reaction to that episode and more thoughts on it, I'll leave a link right up above. Because of how crazy I heard that episode was, I decided to react to it, and I had a fun time doing that. But that is one of the best episodes of TV that I've ever seen. The shock factor, the emotional weight it has, it is incredible. But after you have episode 6, Herogasm, that is just so good, you go to episode 7. I'm hoping that maybe they'll do another even better episode, but that's a lot to ask. And I feel like it was just a big step down. I wasn't too interested in it. It did feel like a filler episode just getting ready for the finale. It felt like we were just getting close, but we needed to expand on a couple more things. It was a bit of a disappointment for me, I'll say that. But when you have an episode that was just as fantastic as Herogasm was, maybe I was looking for a little too much. And what they do with Black Noir's character, the little kind of animated characters that talk to him, to me, it did feel a little silly. Yes, this show is silly at times, don't get me wrong, but I feel like they were just taking it to another level and it didn't necessarily work. I definitely thought that it was cool that they're introducing more to Black Noir. He's a very mysterious character. He's a character that doesn't even talk. But maybe you could have done it in a different way, I feel. And lastly, the season may not be as bingeable as the previous 2 seasons. Maybe that's just because of me and I binged the first 2 seasons, so it was a different experience. This one I watched week to week, whereas the other I binged. So it could be that, but I feel like because of how choppy each of the episodes were, some were great, some were awesome, some were fine. It was a little off and on. Was this next episode going to be great, or was it going to be just fine? I was a little hesitant before each episode, but luckily the season goes out with a bang, with a terrific finale. I cannot wait for season 4. It cannot get here sooner enough. So while I don't think The Boys season 3 is the best season yet, it is still fantastic. If you have not gotten around to the show, I cannot recommend it enough. You could just watch this show for the performances alone, especially Anthony Starr. You come for the performances, but then you get the characters, you get the violence, you get the action, you get the story. All of it is wonderful. It's a superb satire on America, what the world is like today. It's dark and funny, and the season goes to new lengths, questioning characters' beliefs. Damn, was this good. I want to give The Boys season 3 a B+. Like I mentioned, it's not absolutely perfect. I don't think it's the best season, but it's a season and a show that is worth your time. Thank you so much for watching this review, and if you did enjoy it, consider giving it a like as well as subscribing and hitting that notification bell to be notified whenever new videos like this go live. Look forward to a bunch more videos coming soon. My name is Ben, people call me Meter, and I'll see you guys in the next one.